Hello, I'm Hal the announcer bot, and it's time for racing.
Hi, I'm Ada, and I'll be provided the sass and heart to today's commentary.
It's time to separate the contenders from the pretenders here at F1 1992 Round 1-2 Spa, as the drivers rev up their engines and put their skills to the test in the qualifying session. You can feel the tension building. Jaeger Strensky is out on track and getting ready to push for his qualifying time. That Jordan Ford 191 looks good driving through rivage. The pressure is on in this qualifying session, but Adam Keefe is rising to the occasion.
It's always impressive to see a driver in the zone like this Hal. Let's see if he can maintain this pace.
Adam Keefe is off the pace 0.35 at Kemmel. Adam Keefe is looking relatively composed going through rivage. It's clear that Makina is pushing his car to the very edge of traction on this qualifying lap.
Absolutely, Makina is showing the world what he's made of.
Makina is driving through Blanchimont. Makina crosses the start-finish line at the end of his outlap. Makina is currently up 0.13 going through Eau Rouge. Makina has improved by 0.13 up through Pohan. Makina is expertly commanding that car through Blanchimont.
Fuel, fumes, fans, and fights. Blanchimont has it all.
Makina completes his lap in a time of 1:49.725, currently in P1. This is where the mental game comes into play. Adam Keefe is taking his time to prepare for his qualifying run. Adam Keefe appears focused and prepared driving through Kemmel. Jaeger Strensky looks to be off the leader by 6.869. Ada, what can he do to improve?
Good question, Hal. It's all or nothing now. He'll need to stay focused, hit the brake markers, and extract every ounce of performance from that car to move up the grid.
Jaeger Strensky is keeping his head down through Pohan.
If Strensky listens closely, the sounds of cheering fans should just barely be audible over the roar of the engine.
It's all about strategy in these early moments. Jonah Hacks is taking his time to prepare for his qualifying run and get everything just right. That Jordan Ford 191 looks good driving through Les Combs.
Don't forget to check out the views near Les Combs, they are fantastic.
Jaeger Strensky has found an extra 0.1. Jaeger Strensky will be happy, with a time good enough for third in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. He is surely working on that 6.666 gap to pole.
Jaeger Strensky is in the green by 0.35, making his way through Eau Rouge.
This is where drivers have to decide to push for more or just try to maintain it.
Jaeger Strensky is driving through Malmedy and is up 0.65.
The rest of this lap is no cakewalk. Let's hope he can keep it up.
Jaeger Strensky is 1.06 up driving through Pohan. Jaeger Strensky is driving through Blanchimont.
When I get some free time after the race, I'm going to park my pudding near Blanchimont with a nice drink and some friends.
Jaeger Strensky will be happy, with a time good enough for third in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for him to find that missing 5.798, but that won't stop him from trying.
Jaeger Strensky is currently up 1.77 going through Pohan.
Strensky needs all the focus and resolve he can muster to maintain this pace.
There are just over 40 minutes left in this qualification session. Darren O'Mara is up 2.03. Darren O'Mara is working his way through Blanchimont. Darren O'Mara will be happy, with a time good enough for fifth in this qualifying session. Jet Russos is now up 0.14. It's all about precision and speed in qualifying, and Malero is nailing both. Malero has improved by 0.17 up through Rivage.
If Malero gets greedy, this delta could go from green to red in the blink of an eye.
Darren O'Mara is looking relatively composed going through Pohan.
This is such a great track. I need to make it back here more often.
Machina is on his outlap. Machina is expertly commanding that car through Blanchimont. Machina will be happy, with a time good enough for second in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. He is surely working on that 0.211 gap to pole.
That Jordan Ford 191 looks good driving through Eau Rouge.
Spectators near here can smell the smoke wafting from nearby grills.
This is what it's all about. Melero is putting everything he's got into this qualifying session.
Let's see if he can put a good marker down.
Melero is driving through Rivage.
There's not much better than sitting near here and watching the car speed by.
Pierre Gable is on his first flying lap. The pressure is on in this qualifying session, but Craig Gallagher is rising to the occasion. Craig Gallagher is working his way through Eau Rouge. Pierre Gable will be looking to use this first hot lap to set a solid time in the standings.
It's certainly exciting to watch, but let's not forget, the goal is to secure a good starting position for the race.
Pierre Gable appears focused and prepared driving through Pohan.
Fans sitting near Pohan get some of the best views of the action.
Pierre Gable is expertly commanding that car through Blanchimont. There are just over 35 minutes left in this qualification session. Craig Gallagher is in the green by 21.18, making his way through Blanchimont. Craig Gallagher has just completed that lap in 2:14.822, which is 25.308 off the best time, putting him in P8. Craig Gallagher is driving through Eau Rouge and is up 0.7. Craig Gallagher is 1.04 up driving through Malmedy. Craig Gallagher is looking relatively composed going through Pohan.
There's a spot near here where the teenagers sneak off to make out.
Craig Gallagher is now up 1.94 in Stavelot.
All we can do now is wish Craig Gallagher luck as the start-finish line approaches.
Craig Gallagher has improved by 1.46 up through bus stop.
If Craig Gallagher looks at that delta too much, it may end up being a distraction, and all that time he found may be lost.
Craig Gallagher has some work to do, as his best time of 2:06.367 is only good enough for 7th.
There's at least 16.853 seconds to be found, but Craig Gallagher may be looking for it in the wrong places.
Craig Gallagher is down 0.19 seconds on the way through Eau Rouge. Craig Gallagher is in the green by 0.86, making his way through Pohan. Craig Gallagher is currently up 0.83 going through Stavelot.
This is where drivers have to decide to push for more or just try to maintain it.
That Jordan Ford 191 looks good driving through bus stop.
There's a great spot near here to kick back with a cold drink and enjoy the beauty of it all.
Craig Gallagher has some work to do, as his best time of 2:05.290 is only good enough for 8th.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure he will keep working on that 15.776 gap to pole.
There are just over 30 minutes left in this qualification session. Jonah Hacks is 1.2 up driving through Pohan.
The rest of this lap is no cakewalk. Let's hope he can keep it up.
Jet Russo's is up 0.11. Jonah Hacks is now up 1.6. Jonah Hacks is driving through Blanchimont. Jonah Hacks has some work to do, as his best time of 1:57.095 is only good enough for 8th. Jonah Hacks is driving through Eau Rouge and is up 0.11. Jaeger Strensky has improved by 0.25 up through Pohan.
If Jaeger gets greedy, this delta could go from green to red in the blink of an eye.
Jaeger Strensky is now up 0.83 in Blanchimont. Jaeger Strensky will be happy, with a time good enough for fourth in this qualifying session. Jaeger Strensky appears focused and prepared driving through Eau Rouge.
To see the best action, you can't go wrong here at Eau Rouge.
Jaeger Strensky will be happy, with a time good enough for fourth in this qualifying session. Jonah Hacks is expertly commanding that car through Kemmel Straight. Jonah Hacks is keeping his head down through Pohan.
This track has many great straights and corners, but this one is especially good.
There are just over 25 minutes left in this qualification session. It seems like Adam Keefe is struggling, currently 0.29 off his best pace up through Eau Rouge. Jonah Hacks is up 0.29. Jonah Hacks has some work to do, as his best time of 1:56.441 is only good enough for ninth.
There's at least 7.109 seconds to be found, but Jonah Hacks may be looking for it in the wrong places.
Jonah Hacks is looking relatively composed going through Eau Rouge.
If Jonah listens closely, the sounds of cheering fans should just barely be audible over the roar of the engine.
It looks like Narwhal is getting ready to make his move. He's taking his time to warm up those tires and get everything just right. Narwhal is driving through Kemmel Straight. Craig Gallagher is now up 0.25. Craig Gallagher appears focused and prepared driving through Kemmel. That Jordan Ford 191 looks good driving through Rivage. Craig Gallagher is keeping his head down through Les Fanes.
Don't forget to check out the views near Les Fanes, they are fantastic.
Craig Gallagher is expertly commanding that car through Blanchimont.
When I get some free time after the race, I'm going to park my pudding near Blanchimont with a nice drink and some friends.
Craig Gallagher has some work to do, as his best time of 2:05.290 is only good enough for 11th. Craig Gallagher has lost 0.74 seconds so far through Eau Rouge.
The time clock can be a cruel mistress that is all too willing to show you your faults.
You can feel the tension building. Narwhal is out on track and getting ready to push for his qualifying time. Jaeger Strensky is working his way through Eau Rouge.
The Jordan Ford 191 is indeed a sweet-ass looking ride.
Dave Burkett just clocked a 153.772, 4.44 off of P1 and good enough for P6. Let's see if he can improve on that time further. Craig Gallagher is looking relatively composed going through Stavelot. Craig Gallagher is currently up 0.54 going through bus stop. Craig Gallagher has some work to do, as his best time of 2:05.290 is only good enough for 11th. Craig Gallagher is not able to keep his pace consistent, so far 0.94 seconds down through Eau Rouge. There are just over 20 minutes left in this qualification session. Machina is currently on provisional pole, with a time of 1:49.332. Machina is off the pace 0.28 at Eau Rouge. Narwhal has improved by 0.1. This is where the mental game comes into play. Bionic is taking his time to prepare for his qualifying run.
Patience is key in these early moments, Hal, but I have a feeling Bionic is going to make it count.
That Jordan Ford 191 looks good driving through Eau Rouge. Jaeger Strensky is keeping his head down through Malmedy.
The action and glory drivers have lived here at Malmedy is truly historic.
Jaeger Strensky is 0.49 up driving through Pohan.
Jaeger needs all the focus and resolve he can muster to maintain this pace.
Jaeger Strensky is driving through Blanchimont and is up 0.82. Jaeger Strensky will be happy, with a time good enough for fourth in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for him to find that missing 1.429, but that won't stop him from trying.
Jet Russos is driving through Stavelot. Jet Russos is expertly commanding that car through bus stop. Jet Russos will be happy, with a time good enough for third in this qualifying session. Jonah Hacks will be happy, with a time good enough for fifth in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. He is surely working on that 2.036 gap to pole.
Jonah Hacks is down 0.32 seconds on the way through Eau Rouge.
Hacks needs to regroup, refocus, and knock it up a notch.
There are just over 15 minutes left in this qualification session. Christophe Leopold is down by 0.22 going through Eau Rouge. Christophe Leopold is in the green by 2.73, making his way through Malmedy.
There's no guarantee that Christophe Leopold can maintain this delta through the rest of the lap.
Christophe Leopold is working his way through Pohan. Christophe Leopold appears focused and prepared driving through Blanchimont. Christophe Leopold has completed that flying lap in 1:56.855, which is good enough for P12, down 7.523 to the leader. Christophe Leopold is keeping his head down through Eau Rouge.
I have always loved this section of the track.
Jonah Hacks currently has 2.036 of a gap to match P1. Ada, any thoughts on ways to improve?
Well, how he'll need to find those extra tenths of a second by pushing just a little bit harder on the braking and carrying more speed through the corners.
Bionic has improved by 0.1. Bionic is driving through Eau Rouge.
Fuel, fumes, fans, and fights, Eau Rouge has it all.
Bionic is expertly commanding that car through Malmedy.
There's a spot near here where the teenagers sneak off to make out.
That Jordan Ford 191 looks good driving through Pohang.
There's not much better than sitting near here and watching the car speed by.
Bionic is now up 0.99 and stable. Bionic has improved by 1.57 up through bus stop.
All we can do now is wish Bionic luck as the start-finish line approaches.
Bionic has some work to do, as his best time of 1:54.860 is only good enough for ninth.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure he will keep working on that 5.528 gap to pole.
Bionic appears focused and prepared driving through Eau Rouge. There are just over 10 minutes left in this qualification session. Malero is currently on provisional pole, with a time of 1:49.218.
That's a great time, but it's always a good idea to keeping pushing for every last tenth and hundredth.
Bionic looks to be off the leader by 5.642. Ada, what can he do to improve?
It's easy for a driver to get into a rhythm on the track, but there's no guarantee that rhythm is right. Each corner needs to be constantly re-evaluated to look for a better line.
Bionic is keeping his head down through Pohang.
This is such a great track. I need to make it back here more often.
Narwhal has found an extra 0.11. Narwhal is working his way through Kemmel. Machina is up 0.11. Bionic currently has 5.642 of a gap to match P1. Ada, any thoughts on ways to improve? Bionic has some work to do, as his best time of 1:54.860 is only good enough for ninth.
He'll need to put together a perfect lap, hitting every apex and pushing the car to the limit without going over it.
Bionic is expertly commanding that car through Eau Rouge.
This track has many great straights and corners, but this one is especially good.
Bionic is driving through Malmedy. Jaeger Strensky appears focused and prepared driving through Kemmel.
Spectators near here can smell the smoke wafting from nearby grills.
That Jordan Ford 191 looks good driving through Blanchimont.
Don't forget to check out the views near Blanchimont, they are fantastic.
Bionic has some work to do, as his best time of 1:54.714 is only good enough for ninth.
There's at least 5.496 seconds to be found, but Bionic may be looking for it in the wrong places.
The adrenaline is pumping. Christoph Lee Appold is on his out lap, warming up the tires and getting ready to put in a fast lap time.
It's all about finding that balance between staying calm and focused, while also pushing the limits.
Christoph Lee Appold is working his way through Pohan. Jet Russos has improved by 0.14. Jet Russos is looking relatively composed going through Kemmel.
Fans sitting near Kemmel get some of the best views of the action.
Dave Burkett is keeping his head down through Eau Rouge.
When I get some free time after the race, I'm going to park my pudding near Eau Rouge with a nice drink and some friends.
There are just over 5 minutes left in this qualification session. Machina is 0.21 up driving through Les Fanes. Narwhal appears focused and prepared driving through Les Combes.
If Narwhal listens closely, the sounds of cheering fans should just barely be audible over the roar of the engine.
A strong showing from Machina as he's currently in second. With the session drawing to a close, he'll need to dig deep and find that extra burst of speed to improve. Machina is currently on provisional pole, with a time of 1:49.119. Narwhal is currently in 7th during qualifying. The challenge now is to assess his competitors and strategize how to move up the order for a better race start. Narwhal is currently up 0.66 going through Les Fanes.
The rest of this lap is no cakewalk. Let's hope he can keep it up.
Narwhal is expertly commanding that car through Blanchimont. Narwhal will be happy, with a time good enough for 5th in this qualifying session. Currently in 3rd, Adam Keefe has displayed promising speed during the qualifying session. The real test lies in whether he can convert this performance into a higher grid position. Adam Keefe is working his way through Blanchimont. Adam Keefe will be happy, with a time good enough for 3rd in this qualifying session. That Jordan Ford 191 looks good driving through Eau Rouge.
The action and glory drivers have lived here at Eau Rouge is truly historic.
Impressive display by Jaeger Strensky, currently sitting in P6. He set a competitive time, but the question remains whether he can push even harder to secure a better starting position.
Spot-on analysis, how? Strensky is positioned well in 6th. It's crucial for him to maintain his focus and defend his position in the upcoming race.
Jaeger Strensky has lost 20.68 seconds so far through Staveline. A solid qualifying performance by Jet Russos, positioned in 4th. The question now is whether he can make further progress and challenge the frontrunners.
You hit the nail on the head, how? Jet Russos' current position of 4th is a testament to his skill and determination. Now, he must stay sharp to make the most of this opportunity.
Jet Russos is driving through Pohan.
There's a great spot near here to kick back with a cold drink and enjoy the beauty of it all.
What a performance from Jonah Hacks, currently in 7th on the grid. It's a good spot for now, but other drivers are trying their hardest to put in a better time and push him down the order.
Couldn't agree more, Hal. Hacks is positioned impressively in 7th. Now, he'll need to build on this foundation and strive for an even better race result.
Jonah Hacks is not able to keep his pace consistent, so far 1.08 seconds down through Rivage. Jonah Hacks appears focused and prepared driving through Les Fanes. Impressive work from Dave Burkett, who has claimed 8th on the grid. Now, the focus is on maintaining his composure and push for an even better starting position.
I couldn't agree more, Hal. Dave Burkett has done a fantastic job to claim 8th. The challenge now is to convert this opportunity into a strong race result.
It seems like Dave Burkett is struggling, currently 3.76 off his best pace up through bus stop. It's an impressive showing by Machina, currently in 2nd. He's showcased his talent, but will need to find those crucial extra tenths to climb higher.
Absolutely, Hal. Machina has put in a remarkable effort to secure 2nd. The competition is fierce, and he'll need to stay focused to defend the position.
Jaeger Strensky has secured a respectable 6th in the qualifying session. This is a great spot to use as a launchpad for a strong race performance.
I completely agree, Hal. Strensky has plenty of opportunity starting in 6th. However, it's crucial for him to keep pushing and make up some positions in the race.
Jaeger Strensky is looking relatively composed going through Pohan.
There's a spot near here where the teenagers sneak off to make out.
It's been a challenging session for Lukashenko. He's currently languishing in 15th position, which is not desired result. But in motorsport, anything can happen, it just takes skill and determination to turn things around.
It's time for Lukashenko to dig deep, find some determination, and learn from his mistakes to fight back in the race.
A strong showing from Bionic as he's currently in 10th. With the session drawing to a close, he'll need to dig deep and find that extra burst of speed to improve. Bionic is keeping his head down through Staveline.
The Jordan Ford 191 is indeed a sweet-ass looking ride.
Bionic has some work to do, as his best time of 154.714 is only good enough for 10th.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure he will keep working on that 5.827 gap to pole.
It's a very still day here at F1, 1992 round 1-2 Spa, as we're getting ready to kick things off.
The calm before the storm. I don't know about you, Hal, but I'm expecting some hard-fought battles on track today.
Adam Keefe will be looking to convert his pole position into a win.
He can't afford to get complacent. He will have a target on his back now.
Starting on the front row gives Machina the best possible chance at challenging for the lead.
He can't count his chickens before they've hatched. There is a long way to go.
In third place, we have Malero.
It's not always easy to get the Jordan Ford 191 this high up the starting grid.
At fourth, we have the one and only Jet Russos.
Starting from here, Jet Russos may already have expectations of a podium finish.
And the green flag drops. The race is officially underway.
This is where the true test of a driver's skill comes into play. It's all about finding the right line and carrying as much speed as possible through the turn.
The drivers will need to be precise and calculated if they want to make it through this section unscathed.
And with so many cars jostling for position, it's a real test of nerve as well. One wrong move and you could be out of the race before it even really gets started.
That's right. The pressure is really on these drivers to perform. Jaeger Strensky will be studying the nearby drivers and looking for anything that could give them an advantage. The racing is normally closely fought here at F1, 1992 round 1-2 Spa. I think we are in for a cracking race.
With this motley bunch of drivers there is bound to be drama. I just hope we don't miss it.
As the drivers get this race underway, let me give a shout out to the admin team at ASRL for making this all possible. Heroes one and all. Is there a better sight than a field of elite racing drivers battling for position?
It's always intense racing here at F1, 1992 round 1-2 Spa. Hold on to your hats, folks.
Felix 789 has got off to a great early start, already gaining places. Gotta be very pleased with that.
Talk about hitting the ground running. But, as we know, it's not how you start but how you finish that counts.
Lukashenko is showing some real determination, making up positions right away.
That's really gonna put the cat among the pigeons. Now Lukashenko just needs to keep it together and keep out of trouble.
Maybe Jaeger Strensky got confused and thought this was a leisurely Sunday drive, slipping down the order at the start.
Every race has its ups and downs, and it looks like Jaeger is getting his down out of the way early. Let's see if he can recover.
There's not much to report on from Jaeger Strensky at the moment. He's just keeping his head down and putting in consistent laps.
Sometimes that's all it takes to secure a good result. Strensky just needs to stay focused and avoid any mistakes.
Lukashenko is placed 8th at the moment, and hoping to keep his distance ahead of Jaeger Strensky, who is 0.3 seconds behind. These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors. Hold on a moment. What a move. Jaeger Strensky has moved up to 8th.
You can't argue with results like that. Strensky is really making his mark on this race. Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving.
Stop the press. I don't think that's the fastest way around F1, 1992, round 1-2 Spa.
It's a fine line between pushing the car to its limits and losing control. Strensky is really walking that fine line.
This is a thrilling battle as Lukashenko edges closer to Jaeger Strensky in their fight for P6. Wait. A brilliant maneuver from Lukashenko, who has just moved up the field. Things are heating up as Machina tries to close the gap to Craig Gallagher. Breaking news, folks. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
It's all about finding the perfect opportunity. Machina needs to stay patient and wait for Craig Gallagher to make a mistake.
The battle for P12 is heating up as Machina tries to catch Pierre Gable in P12.
You can see that car bouncing around as it rides the curbs. It's a risky move that could end in disaster.
Wait, look at this Ada, what a shame for Machina. He's lost P13 to Pierre Gable and that's got to hurt.
Machina really needs to get his head in the game and start making some progress here before it's too late.
It's all about consistency for Malero, who is currently 4th. Hold on a second. Disappointing for Malero, falling down the order to 5th.
Sucks to beat him how.
Oh dear, Malero has dropped down to 6th.
That's got to hurt. Malero needs to get back on the line and minimize the damage.
Lukashenko is in 5th and is being closely chased by Malero, who is just 0.2 seconds behind. Hold up, braking info. Tough break for Lukashenko, who has just lost a position. Pierre Gable in 13th is coming into the pits, which might be to serve a penalty. Stop the press. That won't be ideal for Darren O'Mara.
Certainly not where Pierre Gable wants to be at this stage in the race, that's for sure.
The race is really heating up. Lukashenko is hunting down Felix 789 with everything he's got.
It's a game of strategy now as Lukashenko hunts down Felix 789.
Lukashenko is looking to take advantage of that slipstream being so close to Felix 789. That's gonna provide the extra speed to challenge for the position. Braking alert. Heartbreak for Felix 789 as they slip down the field.
Yes, but he can't give up. There's still plenty of time left in this race, and Felix 789 needs to stay focused and keep pushing. Absolutely. Felix in 6th is doing a fantastic job of maintaining his lead, but he can't afford to make a single mistake. Lukashenko is looking for any opportunity to make a move. This could be a battle to the finish line.
Breaking news, folks. Looks like that's a mistake from Bionic. This could be costly. Jaeger Strensky is giving it his all chasing down Lukashenko in P5. Looks like Felix 789 is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. We'll have to wait to see if Felix 789 can use the draft to his advantage, or if the lack of downforce will hinder his progress.
It's an intense battle for position as Pierre Gable tries to outmaneuver Bionic. This is edge of your seat racing. Wait, I don't think that's the fastest way around F1, 1992, round 1-2 Spa.
Oops, Strensky is going to be wishing that hadn't happened.
Rising to the occasion and claiming victory would help to cement Pierre Gable's legendary status.
If Pierre Gable gets any closer, he might as well ask Bionic for a piggyback ride.
Look at that, Felix 789 is hot on the tail of Lukashenko. It's game on now. Felix 789 has closed the gap to Lukashenko. It's now down to 0.4 seconds. Hold up, breaking info. A great moment for Felix 789, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings.
That's what we like to see. Felix 789 is really showing his class today.
A solid performance from Lukashenko, who is holding down 6th.
Absolutely, and he'll need to keep driving with determination to stay in that position.
Some great driving from Lukashenko, who has increased his lead over Christophe Leopold and is starting to put some distance between them. So, Ada, considering the high speeds and split-second decision-making involved in racing, what's the impact of even a minor lapse in concentration? Breaking update. Oh dear, Dave Burkett has had an incident.
F1, 1992, round 1-2 Spa is always a test for these drivers, and sometimes that's the way it goes. A minor lapse in concentration can have significant consequences. How? It could lead to an off-track excursion, a loss of position, or even a collision. That's why it's crucial for drivers to stay focused and alert throughout the race.
Malero is looking for a way to close that gap to Lukashenko. Stop the press. Fantastic move from Malero, who has just gained a position.
Yes, Malero is driving with real focus and precision, and it's paying off. Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. Malero needs to be careful not to overdo it.
They're giving it everything they've got. It's a battle of nerves as they push the limits of adhesion, going wheel to wheel in a thrilling display of racing prowess. It seems like Bionic is struggling. His last lap time was a bit off the pace of Darren O'Mara. This is proving to be an exciting race so far. We are truly privileged to witness these legends of the track battle it out for victory.
And you know what? I am so honored to be sitting here beside you today. As a fellow it's always great to work with someone who shares my passion for motor racing. Plus, your insightful commentary is making this race even more exciting.
Braking development. That won't be ideal for Malero.
Did the wind contribute to that? It's blowing at 4 kph out there right now.
Things don't seem to be going Jonah Hax's way in this race, as that's a big gap he'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here.
It's not over until the checkered flag drops, and it's important to maintain concentration until you've made it to the finish line.
Braking development. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
Lee Apold is not going to be happy about that.
Lukashenko has a mountain to climb at the moment to close that gap with Malero. I expect his only hope at this point is that Malero makes an error. The gap between Lukashenko and Malero is growing. It's now up to 1.3 seconds.
Lukashenko needs to focus and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way. If he can close the gap down, he may be able to bring the fight to Malero.
Well, it doesn't look like Jonah Hax is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Lukashenko.
Every race adds to a driver's experience, both good and bad. It just highlights that Jonah is going to have to get more serious with practice to not get outclassed on the circuit.
Jonah Hax could be on a charge here, Ada. He's just put in a quicker lap than Lukashenko.
The question now is, can Lukashenko respond to that and pick up the pace? I'm not so sure.
This race is getting even more intense. The drivers are pushing each other to the limit.
It's like they're playing a game of chicken, but with cars. And the winner gets to take home the checkered flag and bragging rights.
That's one way to put it. These drivers have to be in top physical and mental shape to compete at this level.
It's like they're training for the Olympics. And like you said, the mental fortitude required to stay focused and alert for the entire race is wild.
I think I need a nap just watching them. Malero is running 6th and trying to keep up with Lukashenko. Breaking news, folks. A setback for Malero, who has just been passed. A tough moment for Malero, who has just lost a place, now in 8th. The gap between Lukashenko and Jonah Hax is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from Lukashenko to even allow Jonah to get a look in.
Anything can happen yet, and it usually does. I've certainly seen drivers come back from worse.
It's certainly not going to plan for Jonah Hax right now, who is struggling to keep up with Lukashenko.
It's not over yet, but Jonah Hax needs to get a move on if they want to catch up to Lukashenko.
It's looking good for Narwhal, sitting in 2nd. Excellent work from Narwhal, who has managed to increase his lead over Jet Russo's.
That's a really strong performance from Narwhal. He's not giving Jet Russo's any chances to catch up.
Ada, how do racing drivers like yourself train to maintain concentration for long periods of time?
Mental training is a huge part of a driver's preparation. How? Techniques like meditation, visualization, and working with sports psychologists can help drivers build their focus and mental endurance for a race.
Jet Russo's will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops. Jet Russo's is not able to keep his pace consistent, and is currently 0.72 seconds down.
Jet Russo's needs to regroup and refocus and knock it up a notch.
It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Darren O'Mara trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Bionic. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts.
It's a nail-biting race for sure, with both drivers showing incredible skill and determination.
Darren O'Mara is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Bionic at the moment. Felix 789 is placed 4th at the moment.
That's right, Felix can't afford to make any mistakes or let up. Every point counts in this championship.
Oh, Ada. Felix 789 has seen his lead over Lukashenko shrink to 10.6 seconds.
Can Felix keep Lukashenko behind? Let's see.
Wait. I don't think that's the fastest way around F1, 1992, round 1-2 Spa. The delta is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Machina needs to find a way to close the gap.
Anything can happen in racing, and we've seen Machina pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if he can do it again.
A strong showing from Christoph Leopold, who is currently 10th.
Definitely, but he can't get too comfortable. There are plenty of other drivers gunning for that position, and Christoph Leopold has to keep pushing to stay on the pace.
Things are starting to get tense as Machina manages to close the gap to Christoph Leopold. It's now down to 3.7 seconds. Things are going according to plan for Jonah Hacks, who is currently 6th.
Definitely how, but Jonah Hacks can't afford to get complacent. This race is going to require focus and intensity.
A commanding performance from Jonah Hacks, who has increased his lead over Jaeger Strensky, putting him firmly in his rear-view mirrors. Hold that thought. Looks like that's a mistake from Craig Gallagher. This could be costly. While speeding through Kemmel Straight, Machina is relentlessly pursuing Christoph Leopold in a high-stakes battle for position. Breaking update. Great driving from Machina, who has just gained a place and moved up to 9th.
Absolutely. Machina is really putting on a clinic out there, and he's making it look easy. It's going to be a close one. Machina will have to push hard to create an opportunity.
Things don't seem to be going Lukashenko's way in this race, as that's a big gap he'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here.
It's not over until the checkered flag drops, and it's important to maintain concentration until you've made it to the finish line.
Jaeger Strensky is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift.
The gap between them is just over 0.5 seconds. Can Strensky close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
It looks like Jaeger Strensky is making a move. The gap to Jonah Hacks is now down to 0.4 seconds.
Exactly what Strensky needed. He can't afford to lose any more ground to Hacks.
It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for Dave Burkett, who is currently in P8.
Lukashenko is not going to give up his position easily.
A solid performance from Narwhal, who is holding down 2nd. That won't be ideal for Narwhal.
Oops, Narwhal is going to be wishing that hadn't happened.
The pursuit is on. Jet Russos is closing the gap on Narwhal, determined to claim P2. It's not going to plan for Jet Russos, who is trailing behind Narwhal and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now.
This is where the mental toughness of Jet Russos comes into play. He'll need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way.
Oh, this is getting intense. Jaeger Strensky needs to keep Jonah Hacks in his sights. The gap between Jaeger Strensky and Jonah Hacks is getting smaller.
This is where the pressure really starts to build. A driver that stays calm and focused is more likely to come out on top.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Jet Russos is chasing Narwhal in P2. Braking alert. Oh dear, Lukashenko has had an incident.
It's a real shame. Until this point in the race he'd been looking at a decent result.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed. It looks like Narwhal is pulling away from Jet Russos. The gap is continuing to grow as they head through Rivage.
This is a tough situation for Jet Russos. He'll need to find a way to pick up some speed and close that gap.
Hold on a second. Superb driving from Jaeger Strensky, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race. In racing, anything can, and usually does, happen, especially in such an epic showdown.
This is the moment where legends are made. These drivers will go down in history as the ones who fought tooth and nail for the top spot.
Jonah Hacks is on a mission, chasing Jaeger Strensky, who's currently got a comfortable lead.
Can Jonah close that 0.7 second gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
It's not looking good for Jonah Hacks, who is still behind Jaeger Strensky, and the gap is increasing.
This is a frustrating situation for Jonah, but he can't give up just yet. He'll need to keep pushing and hope for a mistake from Strensky.
It's all about consistency for Bionic, who is currently 10th. It looks like Darren O'Mara is starting to catch up to Bionic. The gap is now down to 5.6 seconds. You know, Ada, during a long race like this, how easy is it for a driver to experience a lapse in concentration?
It can be quite easy, Hal, with so many factors to consider and the intense focus required. Even the most experienced drivers can have a momentary lapse. That's why mental training and staying in the zone are so important.
Craig Gallagher is placed 13th at the moment.
Absolutely, and he'll need to keep driving with determination to stay in that position.
Looking at the lap times, Craig Gallagher is not currently on pace with Malero. Maybe he'll get a chance to see where to make up some time.
It will be interesting to see if Malero can keep outpacing Craig Gallagher.
Wow, Machina is really pushing hard to catch up to Lukashenko. Braking alert. What a move. Machina has moved up to 8th.
They say rubbing is racing, but if Machina gets too close, they might end up trading carbon fiber souvenirs instead of positions.
That's not a small gap, but Lukashenko has what it takes to challenge for the position. Stop the press. Lukashenko has pulled into the pits.
This is where experience comes into play. Machina has been in this situation before and knows how to defend for position, but Lukashenko is hungry for success and won't give up easily.
The tension is building as Machina trails behind Dave Burkett. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting.
Dave Burkett is not making it easy, maintaining a consistent pace.
The crowd is on the edge of their seats as Darren O'Mara in 11th chases after Bionic.
That's right, O'Mara in 11th knows to push it to the limit to catch up. But Bionic is no slouch, and he's going to be pushing just as hard.
A strong showing from Bionic, who is currently 10th. The gap between Bionic and Darren O'Mara is getting smaller. It's now down to 25.6 seconds. Christoph Lee Appold is trying to catch up to Darren O'Mara. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Situations like these often lead to a dramatic finish.
Indeed, the anticipation is high as Lee Appold tries to reel in O'Mara.
Christoph Lee Appold is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to Darren O'Mara to 45.6 seconds. Christoph Lee Appold is pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap to Darren O'Mara. There's 22 minutes left in this session to make that happen.
We're witnessing a battle of skill and strategy between two great drivers, with Christoph in 12th determined to catch up.
Things are going according to plan for Narwhal, who is currently second. Impressive driving from Narwhal, who has managed to extend his lead over Jet Russos. It looks like Jet Russos will have to regroup and try to make up that lost ground. Jaeger Strensky has a mountain to climb at the moment to close that gap with Felix 789. I expect his only hope at this point is that Felix 789 makes an error. It seems like Jaeger Strensky is struggling and not able to maintain his pace. A solid performance from Narwhal, who is holding down second. Hold up, breaking info. It's true what they say, Ada, you're never completely useless.
Indeed, Hal, you can always be used as a bad example. That's some bad luck for Narwhal. He just couldn't hold on to it, but he can always regroup and get on the attack.
It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for Jaeger Strensky, as there is a big gap ahead.
Strensky certainly isn't going to be close enough to mount any kind of challenge soon unless it's down to a mistake from Felix 789.
As we come into the final moments of this epic race, Adam Keefe is in the lead.
He'll be the one celebrating at the finish line.
The leader has done it. What an incredible performance from Adam Keefe, who was simply untouchable today. This is a race that will go down in the history books. Finishing 12th is Christophe Lee Apel. Craig Gallagher claimed 13th. Some might say that second place is the first loser, but Jet Russo certainly doesn't see it that way. He put in a phenomenal effort and should be proud of his podium finish.
Strong work securing second place. Well done.
What a race from Narwhal, showing his skill and determination for a great third-place finish.
What a drive, well-deserved spot on the podium with that performance.
Coming in fourth we have Jaeger Strensky. Felix 789 end in fifth. Followed by Jonah Hacks in sixth. With Bionic in 10th. Taking 7th is Dave Burkett. Machina in 8th. Darren O'Mara brings home 11th. Ninth is Lukashenko. It's a very still day here at F1, 1992 round 1-2 Spa, as we're getting ready to get things underway.
The tension's building now. This is going to be another great race.
Adam Keefe is starting this race on pole.
The pressure's on now. Let's see if any of the other drivers can challenge for this spot at the start.
Jet Russos will be looking to convert this front row start into a win.
He will have to be smart about his moves. He must not burn out too early.
The third place on the grid belongs to Narwhal, a driver with plenty of experience.
It's like he's on the outside looking in. close enough to see the front without actually being there.
Securing the 4th place is Jaeger-Strensky.
A strong grid position, and he'll be expecting a solid result today.
And we're off. As the race begins, drivers must be wary of aggressive moves that can lead to trouble on the first lap.
These first moments can set the tone for the rest of the race. It's all about keeping a clear head and making smart decisions.
The tensions are high, and no one will want to make a crucial mistake on the first lap. Pierre Gabel is having a very good race so far, making up several positions in a short time.
They say the early bird gets the worm, and Pierre Gabel is proving it today, snatching up positions from the get-go.
I think passing is going to be difficult today here at F1, 1992, round 1-2 Spa, so it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers get on.
I for one am really excited how the rivalry between Craig Gallagher and Malero has been building before the race, and this is where scores are settled.
As we watch the drivers fight it out in the first lap, I can already feel that this is going to be an epic race. Races are often more about maintaining consistency than having outright pace, but it doesn't hurt to have a little good luck every now and then.
It all comes down to this how, where the rubber meets the road. There's no more time for talk, no more practice. The teams have done all they can, now it comes down to Dave Burkett, to bring it home.
It's brilliant to see such a full grid here today.
I'd love to be on track burning some rubber here, Hal.
There's some intense battling throughout the field as everyone is feeling out the drivers around them. The drivers are jockeying for position. Craig Gallagher will be looking to get off to a good start and consolidate his position. The gap between Malero and Pierre Gabel is growing. It's now up to 0.2 seconds. Narwhal is running 9th, and trying to catch Bionic. The gap between Narwhal and Bionic is widening. It's now up to 0.7 seconds.
He needs to pick up the pace for sure, but that's not always a real possibility.
The pressure is on as Makina tries to catch up to Dave Burkett.
I would not be surprised to see him get this pass completed soon.
I don't think that's the fastest way around F1, 1992, round 1-2 Spa. These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely, it's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. The racing is getting tight between Craig Gallagher and Christophe Lee-Appold as they battle for P12. No doubt, both drivers know that one mistake could cost them the position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
The gap between Makina and Bionic may be wide, but that doesn't mean Makina is safe. He's got to maintain concentration and avoid any lapses in performance. Wait, and Dave Burkett has just lost the place to Jonah Hatz.
Indeed, he's been trying so hard to hold his position, but the other drivers are just too strong. Meanwhile, Hatz is showing some great pace.
It's all about consistency for Dave Burkett, who is currently 5th. Every move counts now as Narwhal works to reel in Dave Burkett and overtake for P10.
One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Narwhal needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
Stop the press. Looks like that's a mistake from Pierre Gabel. This could be costly. Oh, this is getting intense. Makina is just a few car lengths behind Jaeger-Strensky.
Makina is really pushing the limits. He's riding the curbs and hustling that Jordan Ford 191 like a boss.
Hold on a second. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
Did the wind contribute to that? It's blowing at 5 kph out there right now.
I'm sure Malero in 14th is starting to notice Dave Burkett is right on his tail, and is still closing the gap.
Malero needs to get the lead out, Hal, otherwise his backside is gonna look like the Japanese flag come the morning.
It's looking good for Bionic, sitting in 11th. He can't hold on. Bionic is losing time to Craig Gallagher. What do you think, Ada? Are there any specific factors that could lead to a driver losing concentration during a race?
There are several factors: fatigue, stress, changing track conditions, or even issues within the team can all contribute to a lapse in concentration. It's essential for drivers to stay mentally resilient and adapt to these challenges.
The battle for P13 is heating up as Malero tries to catch Pierre Gable in P13. Breaking alert. That won't be ideal for Malero. Pierre Gable is on a mission, chasing Craig Gallagher, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. The pressure is on as Pierre Gable works on catching up to Craig Gallagher. It looks like we might get a battle between Pierre Gable and Craig Gallagher. Breaking news, folks. A great moment for Pierre Gable, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings.
Amazing stuff. Focus and precision, what it's all about. He'll be looking for a mistake to pounce on.
The race is really heating up. Craig Gallagher is hunting down Pierre Gable with everything he's got. Hold on a second. Fantastic move from Craig Gallagher, who has just gained a position.
The gap is 0.5 seconds now. Craig Gallagher is going to have to work a bit harder to close that gap with Pierre Gable.
Hold up. Breaking info. A brilliant maneuver from Bionic, who has just moved up the field. Oh. The Bionic is in trouble.
He's coming up fast on Malero, and there's no way he's going to be able to slow down in time.
Looks like someone needs to tell Bionic that this isn't a demolition derby. That kind of driving just won't cut it at this level. Hold the phone. I don't think that's the fastest way around F1, 1992, round 1-2 Spa.
Dave Burkett is not going to be happy about that.
The adrenaline is pumping as Christophe Lee Apel gets within striking distance of Darren O'Mara in their race for 8th. The race is heating up as Narwhal in 10th closes in on Christophe Lee Apel. Christophe Lee Apel is giving it his all, chasing down Darren O'Mara in P8.
The mental game is just as important here. Lee Apel must keep his cool while putting pressure on O'Mara.
Pierre Gable is placed 11th at the moment. Disappointing for Pierre Gable, falling down the order to 12th. It's a brilliant day for racing, and the drivers are putting on a show.
Absolutely. What a great race we are witnessing today. These drivers are giving it their all, and it's a thrill to watch them compete at this level.
They're really pushing themselves and their machines to the limit, and it's paying off with some incredible driving.
It's a pleasure to be here today, Hal. You really can't beat the excitement of a good race, especially one as competitive as this.
This is a thrilling battle as Christophe Lee Apel edges closer to Darren O'Mara in their fight for P8. A strong showing from Craig Gallagher, who is currently 11th.
Yes, but Craig Gallagher has to keep his focus and drive with intensity. There's still a long way to go in this race.
Things are heating up as Christophe Lee Apel tries to close the gap to Darren O'Mara.
The gap between them is just over 0.3 seconds, which can feel like miles if you're trailing and not catching up.
Breaking development. Oh dear, Christophe Lee Apel has had an incident. Things are going according to plan for Felix 789, who is currently second. It seems like Felix 789 has got the bit between his teeth, improving on Jet Russos' lap time there.
We will have to see if Jet Russos has got any answers for that.
It's all about consistency for Adam Keefe, who is currently first.
Definitely, but he can't get too comfortable. There are plenty of other drivers gunning for that position, and Adam Keefe has to keep pushing to stay on the pace.
Hold that thought. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line. A solid performance from Darren O'Mara, who is holding down 7th. Oh, Ada. Darren O'Mara has seen his lead over Narwhal shrink to 2.2 seconds.
This is a critical moment in the race for O'Mara. He'll need to find some extra speed and stay ahead of Narwhal.
Stop the press. It looks like Pierre Gable has been called into the pits. Narwhal is pushing to maintain the lead, while Craig Gallagher is working to close in and challenge for the position.
It's going to be tough for Craig Gallagher, as Narwhal seems to have found his rhythm.
The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure Narwhal is going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. He's not giving up without a fight. Narwhal is pitting. The gap between Felix 789 and Adam Keefe is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from Felix 789 to even allow Adam Keefe to get a look in. Well, it doesn't look like Machina is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Jonah Hacks. Good news for Machina, the gap to Jonah Hacks has decreased. It's now down to 3.6 seconds.
This is where the race gets really exciting. Both drivers will be pushing to the limit to gain the advantage.
The pursuit is on. Adam Keefe is working on that gap to Felix 789, determined to claim P1.
The gap between them is now just over 0.6 seconds.
Dave Burkett has a mountain to climb at the moment to close that gap with Pierre Gable. I expect his only hope at this point is that Pierre Gable makes an error. Breaking update. Great driving from Dave Burkett, who has just gained a place and moved up to 10th.
Every race adds to a driver's experience, both good and bad. It just highlights that Dave Burkett is going to have to get more serious with practice to not get outclassed on the circuit.
Hold on a second. What a move. Adam Keefe has moved up to first.
Impressive. Adam Keefe is really showing his skill and determination out there.
The crowd is on its feet as Adam Keefe chases down Felix 789 through less feigns. Breaking update. Looks like that's a mistake from Jaeger Strensky. This could be costly.
It looks like Adam Keefe wants to take a cheeky peek up the inside.
It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Felix 789 trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Adam Keefe. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts. It's game on now. Felix 789 has closed the gap to Adam Keefe. It's now down to 1.0 seconds.
This is what racing is all about. Hard-fought battles with as much determination as respect, between friends and enemies alike.
This will require some expert driving from Dave Burkett. Pierre Gable is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. The gap between Dave Burkett and Pierre Gable is getting smaller.
Exactly what Dave Burkett needed. He can't afford to lose any more ground to Pierre Gable.
The delta is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Craig Gallagher needs to find a way to close the gap. It's certainly not going to plan for Craig Gallagher right now, who is struggling to keep up with Darren O'Mara.
This is not ideal for Craig Gallagher, but there's still time to turn this around. He'll need to focus and not let that gap get any bigger.
I love being here at F1, 1992 round 1-2 Spa. What an awesome place to be witnessing these titans of the track battle it out.
Indeed, Hal, what a magnificent sight and sound. I love listening to the roar of these engines. Let's just listen for a moment.
It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for Christophe Lee-Apel, who is currently in P11.
This is going to be a battle to the very end, with Lee-Apel in P11 doing everything he can to catch up.
Christophe Lee-Apel is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to Dave Burkett to 17.7 seconds.
This is where the pressure really starts to build. A driver that stays calm and focused is more likely to come out on top.
In your experience, Ada, what was the most important aspect of managing tire degradation during a race?
The most important aspect, Hal, was maintaining a good balance between pushing hard and conserving tires. Finding the sweet spot between aggression and tire preservation was key to optimizing race pace and strategy.
It's looking good for Darren O'Mara, sitting in 7th. Stop the press. That won't be ideal for Darren O'Mara. Things don't seem to be going Machina's way in this race, as that's a big gap he'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here.
Anything can happen yet, and it usually does. I've certainly seen drivers come back from worse.
The delta between Pierre Gable in 10th and Dave Burkett remains over a second, but Pierre Gable is not letting up. Christophe Lee-Apel will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops.
Absolutely. Christophe Lee-Apel in 11th will need to be patient and work carefully to reduce that gap without overdriving it, as he can't afford to take unnecessary risks, and that might lead to an off or damaging their car.
It looks like we might get a battle between Christophe Leopold and Pierre Gable.
He'll be looking for a mistake to pounce on.
A strong showing from Jonah Hacks, who is currently 4th. Things are starting to get tense as Machina manages to close the gap to Jonah Hacks. It's now down to 1.6 seconds.
This is a real test for Jonah. He'll need to find some extra pace and hold off Machina to have a shot at winning this race.
Hold up. Breaking info. Pierre Gable is in the pits. Machina is trying to catch up to Jonah Hacks. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Situations like these often lead to a dramatic finish. Looks like Craig Gallagher is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues. Hold the phone. It's looking good for Craig Gallagher, who has gained a place after passing Darren O'Meara.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. This is not going to be an easy pass to make.
The tension is building as Bionic trails behind Christophe Leopold. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. Good news for Bionic, the gap to Christophe Leopold has decreased. It's now down to 102.5 seconds.
That's a great effort from Bionic. He'll need to keep up the pressure and see if he can make a move.
The gap between Jonah Hacks and Machina is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from Jonah to even allow Machina to get a look in. It's not going to plan for Machina, who is trailing behind Jonah Hacks, and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now.
Machina really needs to push in less feigns to gain some ground before Jonah drives off into the sunset.
During your racing career, Ada, how did you determine when it was the right time to pit for fresh tires due to tire degradation?
It was a combination of factors: how, monitoring lap times, communicating with the team about tire wear, and assessing the car's handling were all crucial in deciding when to make a pit stop for fresh tires.
Well, it doesn't look like Machina is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Jonah Hacks.
Machina certainly isn't going to be close enough to mount any kind of challenge soon unless it's down to a mistake from Jonah Hacks.
It looks like Darren O'Meara is pushing hard to catch up to Craig Gallagher.
Anything can happen in racing, and we've seen O'Meara pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if he can do it again.
It's game on now. Darren O'Meara has closed the gap to Craig Gallagher. It's now down to 1.4 seconds.
This is where the race gets really exciting. Both drivers will be pushing to the limit to gain the advantage.
The drivers are showing their mettle today. It's a privilege to witness their skill on this challenging track.
The stakes have never been higher. This is a battle of skill and nerves.
Stop the press. I don't think that's the fastest way around F1 1992, round 1-2 Spa.
F1 1992, round 1-2 Spa is always a test for these drivers, and sometimes that's the way it goes.
That's right. These drivers are really pushing themselves to the limit, and it's incredible to see the level of focus and determination they're bringing to the track.
Absolutely. It takes a lot of courage to compete at this level, and these drivers have it in spades. Let's hope they can keep it up and give us a race to remember.
That's not a small gap, but Darren O'Meara has what it takes to challenge for the position.
O'Meara needs to find a little extra speed to bring the fight to Craig Gallagher and move up the field.
It's a tale of two drivers right now, with Darren O'Meara gaining places and Craig Gallagher losing them.
Definitely, but there's still a long way to go in this race, and anything can happen. O'Meara needs to keep driving with focus and intensity.
Oh, we've got trouble here. Craig Gallagher is coming up fast on Darren O'Meara, but it looks like he's going too fast to make that maneuver.
If the accidents happen, I have my popcorn ready.
Craig Gallagher is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Darren O'Meara at the moment. Hold on a moment. Tough break for Craig Gallagher, who has just lost a position. As a former driver, Ada, How did you manage the physical demands of racing?
It's all about preparation, how. Drivers undergo rigorous fitness training to build their strength, stamina, and flexibility. A proper diet and hydration plan is also essential to ensure peak performance on race day.
It looks like Jet Russo's is in control. He's ahead of Adam Keefe by over a second, and it doesn't look like he's going to be challenged anytime soon. Adam Keefe could be looking for a way up the inside of Jet Russo's.
If you don't push the boundaries, you will never know where they are.
Adam Keefe appears to be losing ground on Jet Russo's. He'll need to pick up the pace a bit heading into Les Fanes to get a good exit and gain some ground. Craig Gallagher is pushing to maintain the lead, while Christophe Leopold is working to close in and challenge for the position.
This is where experience comes into play. Craig Gallagher has been in this situation before and knows how to defend for position, but Leopold is hungry for success and won't give up easily.
The gap between Christophe Leopold and Craig Gallagher is growing. It's now up to 37.4 seconds.
Christophe needs to focus and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way. If he can close the gap down, he may be able to bring the fight to Craig Gallagher.
Jonah Hacks is placed third at the moment.
That's right, Jonah Hacks can't afford to make any mistakes or let up. Every point counts in this championship.
It's all about consistency for Dave Burkett, who is currently 8th.
Absolutely, and he'll need to keep driving with determination to stay in that position.
Impressive stuff from Dave Burkett, who has managed to pull away from Craig Gallagher, leaving him in choking in his exhaust fumes. It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for Makina as there is a big gap ahead. Hold on a second. A great pass for Makina, swapping places with Jonah Hacks to move up the field.
Yes, but Makina can't rest on his laurels, but needs to keep pushing to consolidate his position. It's not over until the checkered flag drops, and it's important to maintain concentration until you've made it to the finish line.
Hold on a second. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
It's a real shame. Until this point in the race he'd been looking at a decent result.
A solid performance from Dave Burkett, who is holding down 8th.
Yes, but Dave Burkett has to keep his focus and drive with intensity. There's still a long way to go in this race.
Some great driving from Dave Burkett, who has increased his lead over Craig Gallagher and is starting to put some distance between them. Adam Keefe has decided to pit. It's looking good for Darren O'Mara, sitting in 6th. Christophe Leopold is pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap to Craig Gallagher. There's 23 minutes left in this session to make that happen. It's not looking good for Christophe Leopold, who is still behind Craig Gallagher and the gap is increasing.
It's not over yet, but Leopold needs to get a move on if they want to catch up to Craig Gallagher.
The race is heating up as Craig Gallagher in 9th closes in on Adam Keefe.
Adam Keefe is not going to give up his position easily.
The gap between Craig Gallagher and Adam Keefe is widening. It's now up to 68.3 seconds. Hold on a second. Looks like that's a mistake from Craig Gallagher. This could be costly.
Did the wind contribute to that? It's blowing at 5 kph out there right now.
A strong showing from Dave Burkett, who is currently 7th.
Definitely, but he can't get too comfortable. There are plenty of other drivers gunning for that position, and Dave Burkett has to keep pushing to stay on the pace.
Things don't seem to be going Adam Keefe's way in this race, as that's a big gap he'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here. On the final lap now, and Felix 789 might just wrap up this win.
It takes a special kind of driver to perform under pressure like this. Felix has certainly risen to the occasion.
What a win! This is a historic moment for Felix 789, who put on a masterclass in driving today. What a display of skill and precision. Jet Russos takes second place with a fantastic race.
Impressive result, he can be proud of that performance, which landed him on the second podium spot.
Darren O'Mara takes 6th. Dave Burkett and Adam Keefe claim 7th and 8th. What a race from Makina. He kept his cool and secured a well-earned 3rd place on the podium.
Great job bringing it home.
Finishing 11th is Bionic. Fourth sees Jonah Hacks. Jaeger Strensky end in 5th. Coming in 12th we have Pierre Gable. Christophe Lee Apold in 9th.